Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Romney, and I am the Senior Manager of Community Education at the Myotonic Dystrophy Foundation. I am so excited to welcome you to our Ask the Expert webinar today, Shared Wisdom, Life Hacks from the DM Community. You can utilize automatic translated captions during this webinar today. To turn on captions, click the arrow next to the Show Captions button on your Zoom toolbar. Then toggle the slider to turn on translations and choose your preferred language from the list. You can customize how your captions look by selecting the caption setting. Before we begin, a little bit about the Myotonic Dystrophy Foundation. We envision a world with treatments and a cure for myotonic dystrophy. Our mission is community, care, and cure. We support and connect the myotonic dystrophy community. We provide resources and advocate for care, and we accelerate research towards treatment and a cure. MDF is here to support you. We have toolkits and publications, which include resources for care providers and families, like the DM and the Heart Community Guide, Anesthesia Guidelines, the MDF Toolkit, Mental Health Guide, Clinical Care Recommendations, as well as resources for clinicians and researchers, including grant funding opportunities for DM research. We also have support groups led by trained community volunteers. Our support groups create safe spaces to network, learn, and share. Through our digital academy, you can view hours of educational and inspirational videos by DM experts on demand. You can also find all of our upcoming support groups, conferences, webinars, and more through our calendar of events. We'd love for you to stay in touch with us. Follow us on social media to make sure you are up to date on all things MDF and DM. You can find MDF on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I also want to highlight some upcoming MDF events. MDF will host one final Ask the Expert this year on palliative care and myotonic dystrophy on December 12th. If you're registered for this webinar, you are registered for the webinar in December. If you can't attend live, that webinar will be recorded and you'll have access to the recording. MDF is thrilled about our 2026 regional conferences. Registration for those conferences is now open. You can learn more about these conferences and register on MDF's website. I'd like to thank Avidity Biosciences and Dyne Therapeutics, the sponsors for today's Ask the Expert webinar. Life hacks are practical strategies or tips that help manage daily life. Today's program will be an Ask the Expert webinar, which will feature DM community panelists sharing life hacks, followed by time for sharing your own hacks via the chat and Q&A. You can share tips small or big related to living with or caring for someone with DM. MDF will then compile life hacks from community members to create a resource that will be shared on our website. Life hacks shared in this webinar may be included anonymously in the published life hacks resource. Thank you all for joining us today from around the world. After the panelists share their stories, there will be time for sharing your own hacks via the chat and Q&A. To send a chat, click the chat button, type your life hack, and click send. If you have questions, we ask that you use the Q&A function. These questions will be sent directly to our panelists, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as we can. To ask questions, click the Q&A button, type your question into the text field, and click send. You can also send questions anonymously if you prefer. I'm now pleased to introduce our panelists for today's Ask the Expert. Emily Jones is the support group co-facilitator for the Finger Lakes in upstate New York. Emily retired in 2006 as the director of New Materials Research, Eastman Kodak Co. She has a son, Jason, and grandson, Logan, who are both affected by the disease. In order to learn more about the disease, Emily formed and has co-led the Finger Lakes Myotonic Dystrophy Support Group in Rochester, New York, since returning from her first MDF conference in 2015. Haley Martinelli is an attorney in Cleveland, Ohio, and lives with myotonic dystrophy type 2. Haley was diagnosed with DM2 at the age of 23, and being the first in her family to be diagnosed, Haley turned to the Myotonic Dystrophy Foundation for information and support. She now facilitates a DM2 support group held virtually for folks living with DM2 to join from anywhere. Haley has spoken at various MDF events, and in 2022, she joined the MDF Board of Directors. She has served as board secretary since January of 2025. Layla Allen discovered she had myotonic dystrophy type 1 shortly after her daughter Betsy was born with CDM, congenital myotonic dystrophy. The diagnosis came out of the blue, but helped her make sense of her life, and she's very appreciative that Betsy was able to receive a diagnosis shortly after birth. Betsy, Layla, and her husband John live in Seattle and will be eternally grateful for the support they have received from MDF and the community. Sean Moore, a DM1 warrior, co-hosts the Affected Men's Support Group. Sean lives with his wife, dog, cat, chickens, and lots of wildlife in a 100-year-old barn they completely converted to a house on a small farm in the Appalachian Mountains near Asheville, North Carolina. Sean graduated from Purdue University with a bachelor's in natural resources and environmental science. He has since spent 20 years in the stream and forest restoration business, the last 10 as a well-known small business owner and member of several community organization boards. You used to frequently find Sean biking, whitewater kayaking, backpacking, fishing, and hunting in the western North Carolina rivers and mountains. Now you're more likely to find him fishing or just relaxing at his ponds, watching biking and baseball on TV, and occasionally in person watching wildlife and making friends online. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today, and I will now turn the time over to our first panelist, Emily.
Hi. Well, I'm very happy to be part of this group. They will have amazing things to share with you. What I wanted to talk about was how things change. In the very beginning, 10 years ago, my son was pretty ambulatory, and we could go just about anywhere. And now he's in need of a scooter, and we use a zine to transport him as well, and that allows him to walk. But as he's grown in this disease, it's become much more difficult for him to do things like open a can. So he got, and I don't know if you can see this, it's called the Kitchen Mama. It's a really easy instrument to use. There's a push button. You put it on top of the can, and it immediately removes the top. You push the button, and off the top comes. He thinks this is the greatest thing that he's ever received. So it's called Kitchen Mama. He also uses a lot of other things to help him in the kitchen to open jars and bottles. And you can find these openers on Amazon, as you can find the Kitchen Mama as well. So the kitchen is a big deal for him, and he can cook still, and he uses many tools in the kitchen. But in terms of getting into the kitchen, he has to turn the lights on. So he's recently started to get all his lights to be smart lights. So he uses Alexa, and he asks Alexa to turn on the lights in the kitchen or to turn them off after he's left. And he also has introduced into the house an electric lock at the back door. This was another big issue. He couldn't open the door lock. So he put on an electric lock, but that didn't completely solve the problem because it had a round handle. So we introduced all over his house lever handles. He can operate them with his elbow, his arm, and no longer has issues getting into the house or any other room in the house. The lever handles really made a huge difference to him. As he's gotten less able to take off his shoes, he's moved to shoes that he can slip into and the heels depress and they just go on. Um, he, I think Carew makes them, and there's another vendor, and I also think they have them at Skechers now. So that has really proved to be a benefit to him. His son, on the other hand, likes crazy things like cowboy boots. So he got cowboy boots, but he can't get them off. So to get a cowboy boot off, you have to get a boot jack, which can also help with boots and other shoes if they're not the ones with depressible heels. So Zomate, Zomate, makes a boot jack so they can get their shoes off and on. Recently, Jason found online this very interesting thing called a fan wear button hook. So it has like a little wire at the end of it. This wire is very depressible. It'll slide through the buttonhole over to the button, and you just pull it back and it buttons your shirt. It also has a hook on the end of the handle, and you can put it on the end of a zipper, and because you now have this big thing to hang on to, you can pull your zipper up. All these have made huge differences in terms of their daily lives. He, of course, has a stair lift, and he has a ramp to get into the house, which are necessary, and also handles in the bathroom, his shower, going down and down to the second level to his basement stairs, where his coats hang. So all of these have allowed him that independence to stay in his home. One of the things we were talking about, he and I, that would make his life also easier would be a medicine dispenser, a pill dispenser. He takes 10 different pills a day, and he has to take them at different times. So we were looking at pill dispensers. There are many. And so if that's an interest to you, I would search them online, look for the best pill dispenser, and there are many different kinds. But it's a real benefit because you can set them up at least for 28 days, if not for 90 days. So those are the things that he's found most advantageous. Now, for me, putting his scooter on a cart on the back of my car has become much more difficult as I've gotten older. And so what I'm looking into is a very lightweight mobile chair. They have them as light as 39 pounds that take no time to fold. And you can put that into the back of your Subaru, which we have, or SUV, and they're very easily take it to wherever you need to go. So those are the things that we've done to make their lives easier. And I'd love to know if any of you have figured out how to make clipping toenails easier for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Thanks for sharing those hacks. That's super helpful. And I see we've got the chat active and people excited about a lot of these resources that were shared. I am excited to welcome our next panelist, Haley.
Hello. It's great to be with everyone today. Those were some great life hacks shared by Emily, and I'm excited to hear more from Sean and Layla. So as the other Emily said, I have myotonic dystrophy type 2. I'm 33 years old, and I was diagnosed just over 10 years ago after struggling for years primarily with hand grip myotonia. And as I'm sure many can relate to, as time progressed, so did DM. And so now myotonia is still something that impacts me in a variety of places now, feet, legs. But hand grip myotonia is still something that impacts me. And my hand grip is not great, my grip strength. So some of the things that I was going to share are similar to what Emily just shared, but the kitchen mama I also have and I also love, and I need all the incentive that I can get to cook. So anything that'll make that a little bit easier is great. Also, yeah, any jar openers. So like these things, grips. This is good for like if you just need a little bit more of a grip, but this one I find will like always get the job done. And it's just me and my dog in my house, and he's a great companion, but if I can't get something open, he's really of no help. So this tool is really great. Also, another kind of small thing, but sometimes it's really just about like making those little things throughout the day easier, is this little tool, which is a bracelet helper tool. It helps put a bracelet on. So sometimes those little clasps are tricky, and this little thing helps put a bracelet on. It makes it a lot easier for me. Another way that myotonic dystrophy impacts me is pain. Pain's a big symptom for me. Doesn't always necessarily have a rhyme or a reason, at least that I've been able to figure out. And there are some things, though, that do give me some relief and kind of allow me to relax a little bit. One is heat. I really love a good heating pad. I have a nice big like bucket of them. But I kind of I noticed when I was looking through them that I have a similar brand that I didn't do on purpose, but I noticed that all the ones that are my favorite ones are the same brand, which is Comfy Temp. But I like heat and kind of compression. So I have these ones that have like Velcro straps. So I can wrap it around my leg and kind of make it, not super tight, but a little bit, give it a little bit of that compressed feeling. So I have the heat and compression. Then I have another one that's not going to be too distracting to pull out. It's very lovely. It goes like this. So like neck and shoulder pain, which I get a lot, and it's also weighted, which again, the compression plus the heat is great for me. Okay, don't mind my hair getting messed up. And another thing I find helpful for pain too is CBD. I like topical CBD. So I have like a big balm that I can just, rub on whatever areas are painful. But another symptom that I experience with DM is sleep issues. I have kind of experienced both ends of the spectrum. I used to struggle with insomnia pretty badly, but in the recent years, I can fall asleep pretty much anywhere, anytime, anywhere. And that also comes with, I find it really difficult to get out of bed. I will snooze my alarm 8 million times before I actually physically get out of bed. So there's an app that I use because I have not found an alarm clock that will actually get me up, except for this app that's called Alarmy. It's just the word alarm with a Y at the end. And it has a very loud, obnoxious alarm, which is a plus, but that's not actually the reason that it works for me. You can set it, it has like tasks that you can set to complete in order to shut the alarm off. So it'll make you do like math problems or like a puzzle, maze or a memory game or something like that. And you can make it get like, you can set the difficulty level. So I make it get progressively, like I do math problems and make them get progressively more difficult the more that I keep turning the alarm off. So eventually my mind will wake up enough that I can get out of bed. So I really think that app is the only way that I'm able to get to work on time in the morning. And speaking of apps, it wouldn't be a myotonic dystrophy panel, I don't think, if we didn't discuss bowel movements. So I'll just get right into it. I use an app to track my bowel movements. Constipation is something that I've always struggled with kind of on and off, but it's been something like recently that's started to more and more interfere kind of more significantly. And it's, it's kind of been trying to, you can track, the app that I use, it can track food, try and see how my diet might impact it, and other things so that I can then export the data to have it when I go to the doctor rather than trying to rely on my own memory, which is also not great. So that's helpful because then I'm relying on like information that I'm recording real time, and not just my memory when I go into the doctor and say, well, I think I'm going this often or whatnot. And then I can look at the trends of symptoms in food and things like that. And there are apps now to track just about any kind of symptom. So, but that's just the one that I've been using is for GI related symptoms. And then, I mean, community support and connection is, important to me. I find myself better able to manage, my mental health and just in a better overall space when I'm connected with others in the DM community. I get a lot out of support groups and just personally benefit from, connecting with others that even though our journeys with myotonic dystrophy are all very different, we do have a shared understanding kind of underneath it all. So I think that about wraps up my life hacks. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Haley. We are grateful to have heard from you, and we will now turn the time over to our next panelist, Layla.
Thank you very much to MDF and the other panelists. It's an honor to be here. I wanted to, it's funny hearing Emily and Haley talk because I'm trying to go through my little list and cross things off here. The handlebars, definitely, I would echo that. The levers instead of the knobs. And the second thing I'd say about doorknobs is that it was a game changer to put on a numeric lock instead of a key. I've actually got locked out of my house before we put that on because I couldn't turn the key. I'd been for a walk, my hands were really cold. So putting in a numeric lock, that really helped. And the second thing I'd say that was talked about jar opening, there's a material called Dysem, D-Y-C-E-M, that is very grippy, and you can put it beneath rugs. I use it as a jar opener, so I haven't had to get a physical device quite yet, but the Dysem is really good grippy, and you can even get two, so one holds the jar, one twists the top. So that is a really good material. You could put it underneath your the knob of, say, a clothes dryer. That would be helpful to get the grip on there. I'm going to read down my list here. I keep my hair pretty short. I don't do a lot of cosmetic things. Sometimes when things are bad, my arms get tired if I'm washing my hair. So for that reason, I just don't really do a lot. I keep it pretty short so it's easy to maintain. And the shoes, slip-on shoes are great. Another thing that helps are not having laces. So Velcro is an easy option, but there's also lock laces. And I found this little website, U-Lace, like the letter U and then LACE. But that allows you not to have to bend over for too long when you're tying your shoes or untying them, which I know for me, I have to sit down if I have to take my shoes off and when I put them on. So that's handy. I have a friend that just went to AFOs, ankle foot orthotics. That's something my daughter Betsy also wears. And they allow her to walk without falling. And my friend wishes she's in her 40s and she wishes she would have gone to them decades ago. Hoka is a brand of shoe, Hoka, that I've found really good. I've gotten rid of most all my shoes that have any heel because I tend to twist my ankle quite easily. So Hokas are a little pricey, but those are the shoes that I wear primarily now. So let's see, Velcro keyless entry. I've moved to using plastic cups and plates just because they're lighter. Support groups like Haley mentioned, yeah, and they don't have to be in your area. Like we have a Pacific Northwest one, but there's one in Florida that's having a speaker soon that I want to see, and so I'll join that one just for that time. And so explore them, see which ones work for you. There's one that is for caregivers of CDM children, congenital myotonic dystrophy. So those are the most severe, are the kids born with it. Explore respite personal care resources for elderly can be helpful. Also exercise classes for the elderly, chair yoga, things like that. It's really important to stay active. I swim now, which is really great. I mean, you're weightless, and it's like the easiest form for me. I mean, it gives you a good workout, but it's still easy. So I think there's something called Silver Sneakers. I've never tried their classes, but water aerobics, adaptive yoga, things like that. A walking stick tends to be helpful for balance. It also gets people out of your way. So you're not getting bumped by anyone. People see it and tend to get their dogs away from you and stuff like that. Bottle jar opening Dyson. I recently got a suction machine. When I get sick, which happens more than I'd like, well, I wish I never got sick, but I get sick quite often because I have a toddler and she's bringing home germs all the time. But I got a suction machine because it becomes hard to blow my nose, 20 times a day. So I use it for clearing my nose out. And that's really nice because it does a better job than you can do just blowing your nose. Handheld vacuum, I have a little vacuum I use. My husband does the major vacuuming, but for a little one, it's great. And it runs out, the battery runs out after about 10 minutes or so. So it's just a perfect little machine. Community care closets. So equipment, there's also loaning libraries, and we have a fantastic resource in Seattle that will send equipment nationwide. And I can share that resource. I'm happy to talk to anyone, anytime. I'll put my phone number in the chat. I'm really open to talking to people, and I'd love to help you if I can. Try to keep your hands warm, especially when you're working, typing, or writing. It's best if they just don't get cold, because then you have to reheat them, kind of. If you're coughing a lot, a swallow study can be helpful. That has allowed me to know which side is stronger in the neck to swallow, and also which that I unknowingly I can't feel a sensation of holding liquid, but I do. So knowing that I need to swallow often, especially before I talk, so that I don't start coughing uncontrollably. In terms of mental health, I would really I struggled against it for a while, but I finally acknowledged that it's a biological or it's a chemical thing. So I take antidepressants. I also see a therapist, which can be a journey to find one that you really click with, but I have a good one now, and I keep a journal. If you are thinking about filing for Social Security benefits, disability benefits, SSI, I have been rejected 3 times now. The strikes against me are that I care for a disabled daughter, which means that in there thinking that I can do something. I have a master's degree and I'm 45. So those are the strikes against me, but I've been denied, as I mentioned, 3 times. But I have a lawyer who works for free until I get a benefit, until I win, and then she gets a percentage of that first check I receive, which backdates to when you first put in your application. Um, so that so she is now taking it to a federal level. Um, I have a list on the door of what to take with me. I sometimes I forget. Haley mentioned this too. Cognitively, I'm slowing down, and I also forget a lot of stuff. So I have a little list on the door of what to take with me. In terms of doctors, in Seattle, we're lucky. We have so I have a neuromuscular pulmonologist. I have a rehab doctor who kind of oversees a lot, and then I have a special eye doctor and a cardiologist, and those 3 talk to each other. They're all in UW medicine. So having doctors that work together, know about DM, communicate and share, that's really beneficial. And we're lucky in Seattle that we have that. Finally, I wanted to echo something my friend Jason mentioned, which is tell people about the condition if you feel, if they're in your circle, they probably already know, but it's really helpful for people to know what you can and can't do or need help with and don't need help. It's nice to maintain our independence as much as possible, but when you need help, ask for it. Don't be ashamed or feel like you're a burden or anything like that. People love us and care for us, um, and then do what you can, when you're able. It fluctuates, so, but it's yeah. And I would say stay positive, active. Finally, I should have started with this. I was diagnosed in 2021 in October. My daughter was born in September, late September, and we were fortunate enough, as Emily mentioned in the introductions, to get an early diagnosis. So I know that's the diagnostic journey for DM can be long, and we were really fortunate that we got Betsy diagnosed. Someone had seen the condition in the NICU she was in, so they knew that's probably what she had. The genetic test came back really quickly, and then I got genetically tested the next month, and it was confirmed. And Emily also mentioned this. It made sense of all these things that I've gone through since I was a teenager. So I think looking back, it was probably teenage onset. I was always weaker, slower, trouble breathing, strange things that never amounted to something that I would need to see a doctor for, except the breathing. But yeah, things just didn't make sense. People thought, my mom, my husband thought I was on the autism spectrum because of the way I don't necessarily filter remarks and comments to people. I've gotten better at that, but I think that's something maybe a lot of us have to work on. But there are oddities in my personality that's always a tricky one. Is it due to your personality or is it due to, DM? Finally, I would just like to say, as with Haley, constipation has become a bigger issue now. And so I've been trying to work with the right balance of Miralax. I haven't gone on any medications yet for DM. I know there are some for daytime sleepiness, myotonia, but I would, but I haven't gone to them yet. I may, but constipation is something I'm trying to figure out what to do about that. That's a serious issue these days. So right, my daughter was diagnosed. She's now 4 years old, in preschool. As I think I said, that's why I get sick so often. And I'm happy to talk about resources for children too. There's a support group for caregivers of CDM children. I have a list of resources I shared last year at the conference in Indianapolis. And I have, as I mentioned, I'm really happy to talk about anything you may have questions on, if I can support in any way. Thank you again, and I look forward to hearing what Sean has to say. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for sharing, Layla. We appreciate that, and we will now hear from Sean, our final panelist.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here today. And like others mentioned, a lot of the things I use have been mentioned already, but I got a list here. Um, First thing on my list is what I used on my list, just my iPhone. You know, of course, everybody's got a phone these days, but I find myself using um, a couple things on here a lot more frequently than I used to, like the Notes app. I can't remember anything hardly anymore, so I'm always just making little notes on here. Um, so I use that a lot for that. Um, okay, I got my list. One thing here in the kitchen, these guys help me a lot more than a knife. Like I can operate these a lot better. Sometimes I can have to use two hands, but yeah, you can just throw a chicken breast in a bowl, chop it up, whatever. It's easier than wobbling around with a knife. Um, Here's my jar opener. Um, this works. You know, you can make it to all different sizes. You can find this in the oil change section of the auto parts store. Let's see. Here's another thing I like. Call this my sippy cup. But anyways, having a straw is easier to swallow for me than a glass. I can still drink out of a glass, but especially when I'm sitting in a chair like this, that's just a little bit reclined, having to drink it from a straw is just a tiny bit easier than the glass. And having a handle like this instead of having to hold it out like this, it's a lot easier. And I find that staying hydrated, I just sometimes just forget to eat and drink. So I like to have a large container like this. So I just fill it up in the morning and I just try to make sure I drink it all through the day. Um, let's see here. Back to my list here. I also in the kitchen I keep around a powdered drink mix, um, like a meal kind of a meal replacement thing. It's basically some vegetable-based protein powder, and it's also got some vegetable greens in it, supposedly, and some vitamins and stuff like that. I don't drink those steaks very often, but there's some days where I just need it. If I'm just a little weak, extra weak, just swallowing food, chewing food, making food. Sometimes, if my wife's away, my wife helps out tremendously with food, but if she's away, sometimes just making a shake for lunch means kind of the difference between eating or not eating for that day. Um, Others mentioned a hiking stick. I use a hiking stick. I tried a cane, but I find a lot more stability with a hiking stick. I think it's because it's out away from your body a little bit further. Maybe gives you a little wider stance. Um, but I like these little guys. I picked this up at REI. It's just a rubber tip that this was a pack of two, but this is a rubber tip that goes on the end of just your standard hiking stick. So that way you don't have like a metal tip. The metal tip on a hard floor or concrete is very dangerous. But this rubber holds on really good. And these are cheap, $10, I think it was. Um, so, um, Speaking of a stick, I don't need a hiking stick all the time, but on uneven ground, or sometimes I just go through phases where my balance just isn't as good. I just use a stick. I don't care what I look like. You know, some people are embarrassed, think they look silly using one. I'd rather, I'd rather not fall and break a bone, you know, be in a wheelchair or be in pain and all that stuff, than worry about looking silly. You know, you look pretty silly laying on the floor with a broken ankle. Um, so don't worry about it. You know, just do what you got to do. Don't worry about what other people think you look like. Um, the other thing I'm using right now at the moment, so I can't show you, but sitting at a desk, I used to spend a lot of time at a desk with work, and you know, putting your hands out on a keyboard no matter how ergonomically designed I made my desk, I just would get a lot of shoulder pain and arm pain and pain in my lats. And so now I sit in this lazy boy type chair. I got a high headrest, so I can just rest my head. I don't have to hold my giant head up well with my weak neck muscles. So I can sit here, and I've got just a board. It might happen to be plastic, so it's lightweight, but it's this board that stretches across from like the hand rest to the handrest or armrest, and my computer can sit right on top of that. And I got a little stand for the computer so it can tilt up and down. It's really handy. I use it with my computer. I sit here and do little projects right in front of me in the comfort of my chair. One thing that gives me a lot of peace of mind is this Apple Watch. And this is pretty expensive little doohickey, but if you can swing it, I really like it. It allows me to a lot of things. It's the cheapest thing that this is the most expensive nightlight you'll ever buy, but I can press a button and boom, I got a nightlight because my eyes don't change from dark to light very well. So going to the bathroom at night, as I do a lot more frequently now, I can just press a button and boom, I got a night light to find my way to the bathroom. I also can, it has a fall detection in there. So if I fall, it sends an alarm. It says, hey, did you fall? And if you don't respond soon enough, it'll contact, whoever you put in as your emergency contacts. It's got a little siren on there. It's like, makes a loud noise so that people can find if I, like when I fell down the creek bank, that it's got, I could call my wife if I lose my phone or drop my phone. I can just say, hey, call so-and-so. It's also got reminders on it, memories for now. So, if I got a meeting like this or something, it comes up and my watch will buzz and says, hey, you got a thing coming up. Just having it for just a peace of mind of being able to contact somebody anytime with it right there is it really helps me mentally, I think. See. Sleeping has become more of a challenge. Like I could, like others have mentioned, sometimes I fall asleep during the day pretty easily, but not at night as easily. So I've had to like employ all the sleep hygiene things, and they really have helped. I sleep with an eye cover on now because my eyes just don't close all the way at night, and so light changes in the house or the moon at night or whatever can keep me awake. So the eye cover, this white noise machine is nice. You can get these for like $10 now on Amazon. They press a button that makes all sorts of different sounds. I sleep with this next to my bed. It's quite nice. Easy to travel with. Like Haley said, a heating pad. The cold really gets my myotonia going. Sometimes, no matter what the temperature is in the house, I just get cold and the bed is cold, so I got a little heating pad I use in the bed lots of times. Electric toothbrush helps a lot. I don't, the fat handle for one is really helpful to be able to keep a hold of it. Two, it's amazingly fatiguing to brush my teeth nowadays with a regular toothbrush, but electric one helps a lot. Helps, sometimes it got down to, I was just too dang tired to brush my teeth. So, but the electric one, I still sometimes am, but not nearly as often. A shower head with the hose, it's pretty standard. Lots of places have a lot of people have a hose on the shower head, but I didn't used to. But I switched to one because lifting my arms up high enough to like rinse under my arms or to rinse my backside and stuff like that was pretty hard to to get, you know, the right angle with that. But now with the hose, I can get it under my arms and rinse my bottom off easier and stuff like that. Um, um, I can't reach my back to wash it, so I got a brush, like you know, it's about, I don't know, 2 feet long. It's just a soft bristle brush, Amazon or whatever, you can get it there. That's great for keeping my back clean. Um, Around the house, I got rid of all of my rugs. No rugs in the house. They're such a tripping hazard. I thought, you know, I had this particular one I really liked. I hated to get rid of it, but man, I just could not stop from keeping tripping over it. I also got to be conscientious about keeping my major walkways. Mostly the house's floor is pretty clear, but major walkways around the house, particularly from the bed to the bathroom or bed to the kitchen. Um, and you know, I just got to be more conscientious of keeping them clear nowadays. Even the smallest thing, like a dog bone laying on the floor, on a hardwood floor, is quite slippery. You don't want to step on that. Um, I saw this in the message board there. I live like on the second floor, and I can still do the stairs okay, but I have to use a handrail, and I'm very conscientious of making sure my hands are clear or empty, so I can hold the handrail when I'm going down. Um, I like to keep a couple of those reusable grocery bags hanging around the top of the stairs and the bottom of the stairs. So if I got a couple things in my hand to go down or up, I just throw them in a bag, hang them on my shoulder, and I got free hands for going up and down the stairs. Um, when you go to a big store or just some place where there might be a lot of walking, you don't want to miss out on it because you can't walk a lot. Use the electric scooters that they got. I just, you know, they're kind of fun driving around. I don't care what people think about what I look like. I conserve my energy when I'm going to Home Depot by riding around on one of those. That way I got energy to do things at home or other more interesting things. Speaking of scooters, I recently went to Universal Studios. My wife and I went to Universal Studios. I would have never thought of doing something like that because it's so much walking and being so tired that you can just rent a scooter. Makes it so much more accessible. I rented a scooter, had a nice big cushioning seat on it, and we was able to enjoy ourselves doing something I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. Um, Door levers, yes, get the door levers. Those knobs they're like traps. I swear. For me, mental health, getting outside is invaluable. Um, I really like being outside, but it's challenging. Walking around my yard, I mean, full ground is hard. It's hard nowadays. So, but I do it. And some things that helps me do it is 2 hiking poles. Some days I don't need any. Some days I need one. Sometimes I need two. Going slow, not holding myself to the same standards as I used to. Like I used to go hike for 20 miles. Now, a mile a day, that's great. And in a mile, I used to walk 3 miles an hour. Now I might be like a half a mile an hour. This so what? I got, I went and bought some of these plastic cheap like lawn chairs, and my wife says it looks kind of like a mess, but I got them sitting around the yard, just wherever I feel like. So I got these loops. I just walk and I can just sit down whenever I want. Um, and Speaking of sitting down, I took this from a life hacks at the conference last year from another member. Um, I got this little tripod stool. This thing right here is very light. You can see it, and I can lift it up. It's got a shoulder strap I can throw on my shoulder. It's actually not as cumbersome to haul around as you think. I picked it up at REI. I think it's $15. If we're going to go out somewhere like to its like Like I went to my niece's soccer match. Well, I took that thing and I had a place to sit down. Sometimes I'll go with my wife to walk the dog on a hiking trail. I don't walk at the same pace as her, and she can't stand to walk as slow as me. I take that thing, I'll walk a little way, sit down, walk a little way, sit down, walk a little way, sit down. It's been pretty nice. Um, hobbies. I changed my hobbies. I used to be into mountain biking and whitewater kayaking, all that sort of stuff. Can't do those anymore. But I sat around here for like a year getting depressed, thinking, oh man, that sucks. I can't do these things anymore. But, there's other hobbies to do. So I just had to think of them and find find things that I found joy in. Now I'm really into bird watching. I bought a camera so I can take pictures of birds. There's quite an online community. There's a good in-person community. Um, a lot of old people, yes, I know a lot of old people are into birding. They walk slow too. So that's pretty nice. Um, let's see. Here's kind of my final thing. And give your, let's, I like, on the level like mental health subject, um, I just keep reminding myself that life isn't bad anymore. Just because I can't do things I used to do, it's not bad. It's just different. I just find joy in doing different things. I hang out with my friends in different ways, like online and stuff more. Um, I've met new people because of this organization and support groups and things like that. Um, I know I can't go 20 miles through the woods with a backpack on anymore, but I can go sit in one of my half dozen chairs in my yard and see some cool bird or watch something in the creek or whatever. I know not everybody's got access to places like that, but it's amazing what you can see in just a little city park or whatever nearby you. Um, there's lots of things, lots of people get into online communities, doing different things that way. Just remember, things are different. Just sharing, it's not bad. You just gotta adapt. Um, so that's all. That's all I got. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Sean. And thank you to all of our panelists for sharing your stories and life hacks. We'll now transition to more of a Q&A and chat-based discussion for a couple of minutes. Just a reminder that to share your own hacks, you can do so by using the chat feature or by asking any questions you may have through the Q&A function. And we'll be able to look at those questions and pass them along to our panelists and discuss. So we will now open the floor for comments and questions. And I've kind of been keeping an eye on the chat as we've gone through our panelists sharing their stories and their experiences so far. So thank you to those who have shared their hacks already, but just an encouragement to use that chat button, click on the chat window and type your life hack into the text field and click send if you have any other life hacks that you would like to share via the chat. And we'll go ahead now and if the rest of our panelists want to pop back on with video, and I'll go ahead and facilitate some questions that I've seen come through, as well as just reading out some of the suggestions that folks have added to the chat. All right, so I've seen a few questions come in, so we can start there, and then I've also kind of been keeping track of hacks that I'm happy to read out that people have submitted in the chat. One person asked, what does everyone use to help get up from the couch? So if any of you have suggestions for that, and feel free if you have suggestions to type them into the chat as well to our attendees, but do any of our panelists have suggestions for that?
Raising your couch, putting some blocks in under the legs so it's a little higher off the ground is helpful. These electric lift chairs are nice, and if you don't try to buy them through a health care provider sort of place, they're way cheaper. Like you can go to a regular store and buy them, or you can go to a Facebook Marketplace. There's all sorts of people selling these things for like $50. It's crazy.
That's great, Sean. Thanks. Great suggestion. And I know one of our other attendees mentioned lifts that they've used for under the sofa, as well as cushions, foam cushions that are used in wheelchairs that make it so it's a little bit easier to stand up from. We also had someone in the chat say that they use barefoot shoes that help them feel the ground better and keep their balance better when they stand up. Looks like someone else said they use a seat boost that helps them get up from a chair or a couch, and they use it when they go out to eat, because restaurants don't have, a lot of restaurants, if you're in a booth, they don't have chairs with arms, and so it can make it harder to get up. Great, thank you everyone for your suggestions there. Someone specifically asked Sean what brand of scissors you use in those scissors you showed for the kitchen.
Oh, mine are good old KitchenAid. You know why they're that? Probably because I stole them from my mom's kitchen or something years ago. I don't know. Just go to Target or something and get you some. But yeah,
Great.
I mean, I chop up. I can't eat like even like leaf spinach is hard to chew, leafy things. I just throw them in a bowl and just chop everything up. It's a lot easier and safer for me than a knife.
Yeah. Smart. Great. Someone else asked, does anyone use muscular activation therapy to strengthen muscles? Or in general, what are some ways that you all have found help to keep your strength up?
Well, don't let me talk too much, but keeping my strength up, exercise works. Moderate exercise really works, and I learned that firsthand this summer. I I went on a long trip, couple months long trip, and visited a lot of places where we wanted to walk and hike, trying to get some bucket list stuff done. So I was just mentally prepared myself that I was going to walk every day to go see a waterfall, go see this bird, whatever, go see something. I only went like a mile, maybe 2 miles some days. But I did that every day for like 2 months. And I was amazed that I could do it. But I've been doing this study every 6 months for the last 2 years. I go and have all these muscle measurements done, this natural history study, and they measure how strong your legs are, how good your balance is, all this. So for the last year, this fall, right after my vacation, I got back and I went and did one of those. I was stronger, had better balance, and legs were stronger than they'd been in the past year and a half. So I'm going to keep up with the walking every day.
That's great. Thanks, Sean. Someone
Yeah,
else-
just add, Emily,
Yeah, please.
like Sean, walking is huge. Just low impact things, swimming, again, I mentioned that. Pushing a stroller. So, my daughter's now up to 45 pounds, I think. So pushing her stroller while walking is a good arm and leg exercise. Yeah, thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Layla. Someone else in the chat also mentioned that they use a forearm crutch instead of walking sticks to help have their hands horizontal to be a little bit more stable, and that MAT has helped them as well. Great. Someone else asked, and Haley, I know you mentioned this, so maybe you'd be able to answer, but they asked about getting CBD and the balm specifically, and if you had to have a prescription for that, or is that something that you can pick up on your own? And if so, where do you find CBD oil that you like?
The one you don't need a prescription. For the one that I get it online. And the brand that I use is called Charlotte's Web.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. All right. I know we are over on time. We had a few more questions that I know have come in throughout the webinar. So for anyone who wants to stick around, we'll maybe talk about a couple of other things before we wrap things up. Someone asked, let's see here, their daughter just got a cough assist machine and they need to add suction. Does anyone have recommendations for things that they've used?
I believe the cough assist and suction machines are separate items. I had a cough assist machine, but it became, I think, $200 a month to rent. It became cost prohibitive, and I didn't use it, so I gave it back to the company. But I do remember at one time having both machines, so I don't know if they combine them, but I believe if you need a cough assist, that's a separate machine from a suction. Like my suction machine that I use for my nose does not have any cough assist functions, so I don't know if you can just get one machine that does both, if that was the question.
Yeah, not sure exactly, but I think that was helpful regardless if they were asking about a combination or separate. It seems like maybe separate, they're looking to add another machine that does suction. So it looks like Lynn in the chat said that she has a cough assist that does both. So it seems like that may be an option as well. Let's see, one final question here before we wrap things up. Someone asked about just being worried to go to the bathroom at a friend's house or a restaurant, and not being able to get off the toilet and dealing with, some of the issues that maybe come with that and those fears. If any of our panelists have suggestions for that, would love to hear ideas, as well as, if any of our attendees in the chat have ideas as well.
I haven't run into that yet, but I imagine if you needed to, you could take your cane, or, I use like Sean Watkins did with a rubber tip, and I imagine you could take that into the bathroom if you're super concerned. Yeah, I don't have anything else. Thanks.
Thanks, Layla. Yeah. Someone else in the chat talked about using a walker, minimizing time, using your legs so that you've kind of preserved strength if you know you're going to be out and about at a restaurant or a friend's house, things like that. So, okay. Thank you. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to those who were able to stick with us and stay a little bit longer to discuss a few extra things here. We will now conclude our webinar. So thank you to our attendees for your participation. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their stories and their hacks. Just as a reminder, this webinar is recorded and will be available on MDF's website a little bit later this year. You'll also receive a link via email directing you to a short survey about today's program, and we'd appreciate you taking time to provide any feedback. Lastly, if this program spoke to you, you can consider showing your appreciation by making a donation via our website. You can also get involved by joining the Myotonic Dystrophy Family Registry. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar, and we will see you next time.